Morning everyone, it's Fiona Whitten from Oatfield Crafts here, and welcome to a Card and Stamping Techniques Facebook Live. So it's not virtual card and a cuppa. It's I've got a fancy fold card to share with you today. I did put a picture up the other day, and hopefully you've all seen it. And last night I even put up a supply list. So this is the card that I'm going to be making for you, and you can more than welcome to join in. I'll go as slowly as possible, but at the same time not drag it out, if you know what I mean. So so this is the card. I'm not going to make the exact same card. I'm going to make something similar. It's similar in that it's the same folds and things, but different paper and cardstock. So this one I made, it's got a, if I hold it that way, you can see, got to see, this is kind of what we're aiming at, that way. And that's the back. So it's made out of 2 pieces of cardstock, same coloured, and then depending on the coloured cardstock and also the paper that you use, that will dictate to you whether or not you want to use Very Vanilla, which this is, or Whisper White. So I'm hoping that you have your you need a paper trimmer, which preferably has a scoring blade on it as well. So this is my stamping trimmer. I might be a bit too close for everyone to see, but hopefully not. So we're going to start with our stamping trimmer, and we want a piece of coloured cardstock. Now I'm going to be using today the Heartwarming Designer Series paper, which looks like this. So this is what the sheets look like. Haven't quite decided yet as to which sheet I'm going to use for this, but I'm going to use a real red base card because I quite fancy making another Christmas card. So that's how I'm going to start. So I've got my piece of A4. And I'm going to cut it so that the short side is at the top, and I'm going to cut it in half at 10.5 centimetres. So straight down the length. So that's an easy part. Then, so basically you've got an A4 cut in half down its whole length. I'm going to pull out the arm because I'm going to need that. Then you're going to turn it, and you are going to score it at 14 centimetres. This is what I need to move. Mum's table is not particularly huge, so I just need to move this over a little bit so that maybe you can see a bit more of it. So you're going to score it at 14 centimetres, 17 centimetres, I apologise for the wibble and the wobble, 22 centimetres, and then the last one that you're going to score is at 25 centimetres. So that is that piece now scored. So we're going to put the trimmer away for a second because I just don't need it just at the moment. And then what you're going to do is you are going to mountain fold. Now I don't know if you all know what mountain fold is. So basically when you make a card, this is the mountain fold. So if you can see, it goes up rather than, that's a valley fold. So you would call that one a valley fold, and you'd call that one a mountain fold. Oops. Okay, so you're going to mountain fold all of these score lines, and you're going to burnish them with a bone folder. Make sure they're really good, firm, scored lines. So just like that. So when you pick this up, you will see that actually it will, once it's glued, form a box at the end, an open-sided box. So that is what you're aiming for. Obviously that will get glued down in a second. Okay, so this is what you're aiming for. So your 4 score lines you're going to mountain fold. Okay, so that's that piece done for the moment. You're then going to take your double-sided paper that coordinates with your cardstock. It's up to you what you use. So I'm using the Heartwarming Hugs, and depends on how busy you want it to be. So I'm quite liking this sheet. So it's got like little X's on, and then the other side has got red stripes, but I'm not going to use the red stripes. Okay. And then you're going to cut a width that is a piece off that is 10 centimeters wide. So I've got my 10 centimeter strip wide. Okay, and then you're going to cut from that a piece that is 8.5 centimeters wide. Two and a half centimeters wide. And you want to cut them in this order so that when you come to glue them to your card front, they actually follow on. And then the last one is 4.5 centimeters wide. And then that spare piece you can put to one side. So I hope you got that. So you had a piece that was 10 centimeters wide, a long strip, and then you cut it at 8.5, 2.5, and 4.5 centimeters. And I will put these measurements up. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to glue these pieces on. So you want to have it so that your score lines are all on the piece on the front. Actually, no, it should have been the other way around, but it doesn't really matter. So then you're going to take your piece that is 10 centimeters by 4.5 centimeters. Let's see what's the best way to explain it. So you're going to, that first panel's not going to have anything on because that's going to be glued to the back. So the first panel that has anything on is going to be this second one down. So you want your cardstock so that all score lines are at the top. And you're going to glue the first piece of paper to the second one down. I hope you're following this. Let's see if hopefully, let's see. Hopefully I'm doing Trisha proud because she shared these instructions with us the other week. So I'm going to glue that one on there. So you don't want anything on that first panel going down. You want it thinner piece on the second panel, and then you want the next one So that's the 2.5 centimetre wide. This is the 4.5 centimetre wide. So you're going to glue that one on as well. So that's going to get glued here. Oh, it does follow on. There you go. So you've got those two pieces there. Now I've got a bit of glue here. I'm just going to wipe that off. Hopefully it will come off in a minute. So you have those two panels with your paper on. Now you don't need to worry about that top panel because that's the piece that's going to go behind, and you don't need to worry about that bottom panel there, that middle panel, because that's actually going to be the base. So you only need to put two pieces on so that when it's glued together you will have a piece at the top here and a piece on the front. And then that third piece that you cut, the one that's 10 by 8.5, you're going to glue that to this panel. So if you open up the card so that the two pieces of paper that you've glued on is underneath and you can't see them, so you take your 10 by 8.5 and you're going to glue them to the top, the largest panel that there is, and you want to glue it to the top of it so that there is a little border around the top and the two sides. You don't need to worry about the bottom because that's where you're going to have the other piece of card. So this is going to go on here like that. So hopefully you're all with me. Morning, Sally. Okay, so you should have two pieces on one side and then the third piece on the other side. Now comes the fun part. What you want to do is you want to, if you can see what I'm doing, is that if you turn your card so that you have the larger panel to your left. Okay. Fold the other end on the second score line. So there's the first score line, there's the second score line, and then you're going to want to put adhesive on this piece, this middle, what's now the middle panel, which would be the bottom. Okay, now it's not, I don't know if you can see because this is red, it's not going to be the same width. It won't match up to that score line, but that's fine. Don't worry about that. Okay, so you're going to, normally I would use tear and tape, but I think I must have left it at home because it's not here in my bag, or wasn't in my bag. So I'm going to use glue because that works just as well, and actually it means that there's also a bit of wiggle room. So you're going to put glue on that panel. And then you're going to fold on that score line. So you're going to fold the whole of it. Well, you can either fold that down or you can fold that over. Actually, to be honest, to fold that over is probably the easiest way to do it. So you want to fold that down. Press it good and hard. So you're doing it this way because then you know that this will fit flat into your envelope. So when the card's all folded up, it'll fit flat into a normal C6 envelope. So when you open this out, you will see, I don't know if you can show it standing up on here. I don't know, can you see it? I've got a bit of a lag on this. So, yeah, I think you can. So it will stand up. So that's the first part of the card done. Hopefully that was easy peasy. But this is recorded, so hopefully you will be able to go back and view it again. So then you're going to get your other piece of cardstock that the one that you didn't actually use. So this is the 10.5 by 29.7. So it's the other half of that A4. And you're going to cut this piece to be 14 by 6.5. Now this is 10.5 wide, so we're not going to get a 14 out of here. Going to have to get 14 out of the length. So I'm going to cut this out. She says, cut it out 14. And then turn it and cut it at 6.5. So I want that piece. I don't need the other piece, the other two pieces. So this piece, what we're doing now is we're actually forming this piece here. It just says it's showing you completely off camera. So we're actually now making this piece. So once you've got your piece that is 14 by 6.5, you're going to score it at 1 centimetre and at 4 centimetres. And then again, you are going to mountain fold. So just fold over towards the back, both of those score lines. So in effect, you're making what looks like a sort of a hook. So I'm going to put that to one side for a second, and then we're going to get our piece of paper again. Now, you can use the same as you've already used, turn it over, use another piece. It's entirely up to you, but you want to cut two pieces that are 6 centimetres wide. So if you just again cut, yeah, and I'm going to just stick to the same. So I'm going to cut a piece that is 6 centimetres wide from what was left of that piece that I cut earlier. And then I need to cut it at 2.5. And I'm going to cut it at 9.5. So I've got 6 wide, and then I've got 2.5, and I've got 9.5. And these are going to get glued to, wait for it, this piece. So the smaller piece is going to get glued here, and the larger piece is going to get glued there. So you've got a very small strip at the top, then you've got a score line. So it's the second panel down that you want to put the smaller piece, and then it's the large panel that you want to put the other piece of paper on. So I'm going to glue those. So that's one piece. Glue the second piece. Like so. Right, now I'm going to trim my edges slightly of my cardstock because the edges are slightly furry. I think I need to change my blade. I've had this in that blade since, I'm trying to think now, November of last year, so it's actually done me quite well. But yeah, you don't want fuzzy edges. That's it. Okay. That's got a bit of fuzzy paper, but that'll be fine. So now, I was going to say now's the tricky part, but quite frankly, it's not tricky. So we're going to glue this to this. And there is a trick to it. Because if you look at my card, which I've hidden away, she says, and there was, I know what it is. So if you, when you fold the card up that way, you want it so that this piece, you fold that piece over and it lines up like that. Nope, doesn't. I want to fold it over like that. I stand corrected. So that piece is going to line up with the top there. So it's not going to come down here completely. So the first thing to do is on this smaller panel, you're going to put some tape or some glue, whatever you prefer to use. Okay. So you've got that panel, fold over so that you've got just the large panel showing. Glue on that top little piece that's got no paper. And then you're going to line this up. So you're going to turn it over and you're going to line it up so that that top edge of the large panel corresponds to the left hand edge of your card. Like so. So you want to make sure that your card, when you fold it, you're going to fold it here and fold it right up. Okay, so when you, oops, just got a wonky piece. That's it, make sure, you probably need to actually let the glue dry properly. So fold that back over, and then you're going to glue also this piece, this bottom piece here, to the card front. So you don't want to be over generous because you don't want to come up here, because heaven forbid you'll then be just basically gluing the whole thing shut. So I would suggest you just do about an inch, no more than that, or 2 centimetres. So I've got your glue here, and then you're just going to simply fold that over and stick it down. Like, give it a good press. Actually, I'm going to turn it over and do that. And then when you open it out, you will have a card that looks like that. So that is your basic card. Hopefully you followed that. Can someone give me a thumbs up? Because I'm hoping that you've all been following and it's not been too complicated. Anyway, so now that you've done your base card, you can decorate it. And really, at the end of the day, it's up to you. So with this piece here, I used a piece of Very Vanilla, which I die cut out using the stitched rectangles, and then stamped, added some ribbon. There is one other piece that you need to cut, and that's a piece to go on the back. So let's just do that bit. So depending on whether you've got, if you need Whisper White or Very Vanilla, you need to get that piece of cardstock out, and you want to cut a piece to go on the back that measures 10 centimetres by 13.5 centimetres, she says. Oh, I can't find my Whisper White. I know it's in here somewhere. Here we go. So you want a piece, as I said, that measures, lost my instructions, 10 by 13.5. Now I tend to, thank you Lorraine, it looks complicated, but hopefully I've explained it sufficiently for you to follow and be able to replicate. So I usually, when I'm making up panels and things to put on cards or in cards, I'll cut the piece in half and then not use that piece, and then I'll cut it into one piece into half again, so I know I need to cut it at 14.9 and then turn it and cut it at 10. So then I always know that I've got two good pieces that I can use again. So I want to cut this at 10 by 13.5. Now this is the piece that will fit on the back here of your card. Don't be over eager to go and glue it, because you want to stamp a sentiment or an image or something before you glue it on. There's nothing worse than trying to stamp something when it's all been glued together, and then if you make a boo-boo, it's kind of really, really annoying. So I've cut my back. Now I'm going to cut a panel to go on the front. And I get my trusty ruler out. So actually we already know it, don't we? So we know that this piece of designer series paper is 6 by 9.5. Now I want a gap all around it. So if I cut a piece that is then 5 by 8.5, so if I get my other piece of cardstock, I'm going to cut it to be 5 by 8.5. Now it's up to you, because if you've got dies, great, then you can simply go cut a shape. It doesn't need to be a rectangle, it could be a square, it could be a circle, it could be a star. It's really up to you. I didn't bring my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine with me because it's just too, it is heavy, but at the end of the day there's only so much I can bring. So I'm going to use just a plain piece of Whisper White. I will share all the other information about what the rectangles. So that was the stitched rectangles, and I like the design on this because it's cute, gives a nice finish. So I've got two pieces of white then that I need to decorate. And keeping, I can put my trimmer away because I don't need that now. And I've also got an envelope that I want to decorate. Those of you who come to Card and a Cuppa or come to classes know that it's very rare for me to send a naked envelope. Don't ask why. It's just been one of those things that I've done. I personally think it's just a nice personal touch. So I'm going to use, and I do have it with me, the Joyful Holly stamp set. It's a two-step stamping. So you have two images, which are the basic outline images, and then there are also two other images, which are the infills for the holly leaves. So this will match up with that one will match up with that one, and then there's one, this actually is one stamp, which is for the berries. So that one will go there and there and there and there. If you don't feel confident enough to do two-step stamping, then you can simply stamp and colour using the Stampin' Blends. It's really up to you. So I'm going to And don't be fooled, because the images that you see on the front are actually at 85%. So the actual stamps themselves are a lot bigger. Okay, so I'm going to do some two-step stamping. This could be interesting. Let's see, what image do I want to use? I think I'm just going to use that single one that doesn't curl around too much. So I'm going to get the block. Now this is photopolymer. So when you stamp with this, ideally you want something soft underneath, piece of sponge. I'm going to use my piercing mat, because just to give it a bit of give, because the red rubber, if you ever notice that actually it's the red rubber, then there's actually a layer of foam. So the same thing applies to this. I mean, these are great because they're clear, so you can see exactly where you're stamping. So I'm going to ink up my stamp. Careful not to get it onto the block. Now, she said I was going to use my stamping pierce mat, but there we go. So I'm going to use this. You can see all the piercings that I've done. And I'm just going to simply, amazingly enough, this fits on just neatly. Give it a good firm pressing down. Make sure you get all the bits. There we go. So that's my image. So that's the outline. Now I'm going to use, now the paper coordinates with Mossy Meadow and Pear Pizzazz, but I like the Pear Pizzazz. It looks really dark, but it does actually dry a bit lighter. So I need my leaves, which I believe is this one. And yep, just making sure. So I inked up my leaves. Now I'm not, let's put a bit more on, not too worried if I miss slightly, and I'm going to have to stand up for this one because it's a lot easier to see. And you can see, because you can see through, it makes it a lot easier. So right, I'm going to go for it. Yeah, it's missed slightly, I mean, but I'm not going to be worried about that. And then I'm also going to stamp the berries. And as I said, the alternative, and what I'll do is I'll stamp again on the back, and I'll use my stamping blends, and then you can see just how different. So now I want to line up these. So that's one. And this will deliberately leave the little white mark. Oops, I don't know why I turned it around, because then I've got to turn my stamp around as well. There we go. Oops, I've obviously missed that piece completely. Right, let's just see if I can do it with just that. Oops. Try it again. Well, now I made a bit of a mess of it because I've got a red blob. But you get the picture. I might redo that in a minute. So then you'll want to add this piece to your card front. Again, it's up to you how you do it. So whether you want to just glue it straight on, or whether you want to use dimensionals. So I think I'm going to use dimensionals on it. You don't need hundreds of them, as it's not exactly a huge piece. Obviously, if you want to add ribbon, then now's the time to add some ribbon to it. You can tie some ribbon around, and you could tie some around the bottom there, or whatever So I don't know what images you guys are using, but it's good to tie it around now before you fix this to the card front. So I'm going to put that to the card front. That's that. So that's going to be the front of my card. And then I'm going to do the back as well. So the back I'm going to, she says, get rid of those dimensional backings. I'm going to use exactly the same image again. So I'm going to use my memento to stamp the image. It's especially important to use memento if you're going to use your stamping blends or alcohol markers, because you want to make sure that the ink that you use to stamp is not alcohol based. So if you're using a StazOn or something like that, then that's alcohol, and if you use the blends on it, that's alcohol, and they could end up mixing. So that's my image for there. I'm going to put one on the envelope as well. I don't want the whole thing. Let's see if I've got a bit of scrap here. Oh, yeah, I've got a piece of paper. I don't want the whole image, but I also don't want to stamp directly onto my piercing mat, so I'm just going to put some scrap paper underneath and just stamp across the corner. So those are my images. Oh, and I wanted to put a sentiment on as well. So this stamp set has a joyful Christmas to you and may your season be merry and bright. Another trick, if, say for example, if you just want to put merry and bright, you can use some washi tape and block off those. And similarly to here, if you just want, well, you actually would want a joyful Christmas. So I'm going to use that sentiment. You see, I've used it quite a lot because it's gone red. So don't be surprised if your stamps go red. It seems to be no matter what colour you use, they seem to eventually go red. They still stamp perfectly. It's not an issue. And this is red actually because I did use red. So I'm going to use red again. So I'm going to use, rather than using black, I'm going to use real red ink pad. I'm going to put it up here, I think. I would have to go back and finish that off with a marker, but I think I'll get away with that. So that's the back side of it. Now, as I said, it's up to you. You can, again, use the stamps to fill in, or you can use markers. So I'm going to just quickly, I'm just going to do the envelope. I'm going to colour that. Now, because I'm going to use alcohol markers on the envelope, you want to make sure that it doesn't seep through to the back. So you need to get a piece of scrap paper, cardstock, put it in between so that it doesn't actually leak through. And I'm going to get my stamping blends. I've got a mixture of Mossy Meadow combo, Real Red combo, and I think I grabbed an Old Olive as well. The nice thing about using the stamping blends is that you can obviously get shading on things. So the trick, and it's up to you. I tend to go light to dark. I'm only going to do a couple of bits because I'm sure it's kind of like watching paint dry sometimes when you're watching someone colour. I'm just going to put some. So I've used the light Mossy Meadow, I then used the Old Olive, light Mossy Meadow, and then I used the dark Old Olive, and now I'm going to use the dark Mossy Meadow just to give some extra shading. and then I'll go back over all of it with making sure I've got the right one, the light Mossy Meadow. It's up to you whether you use the fine tip or the smaller nib. I don't really have a favourite part. I use both of them. It just depends on what I'm colouring, whether I want to be more accurate. Because believe it or not, which sounds silly, the finer, the brush end tends to be easier because it's the tip of it is very fine. So you can actually get into places a bit easier. Sounds odd, I know, but there you go. But that's how it seems to work. So the berries, I've actually gone red, dark, light, and then I'm going to go dark again just to highlight them. Also, when they dry, there will be some shading, and if you want to lift some so that you get that fleck, you can just sort of go over it slightly with the colour lifter. It won't show straight away, but it will do. So that's the colouring. So I'm going to leave you. So I'll finish this off in my own time, and then I will share on the Facebook page the finished card. As I said, there's nothing worse than you having to sit there and watch me colouring or stamping. So hopefully you managed to follow the instructions for making the base card. And then when I've finished, I'm going to redo that bit. That will be going on here, as I said. And then you've got your envelope, and then lo and behold, when you're done, it fits very neatly into a normal C6 size envelope. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll get this posted up as soon as I can, as I'm at my mum's, so I've got use of a brilliant internet. The good news is, although Mum might not think it good news, they're digging up our main road at the moment to put all the fibre optic cables in. So you never know, sometime in the next couple of months I may actually be able to do this live from home. But we'll wait and see. I'm not going to hold my breath on it, but I have to admit, it's one lot of roadworks I'm not going to complain about. I'm sure there are people who are cursing it, but no, personally, I think it's great. So thank you very much, Lorraine. Glad you've liked the card. I will be back next week with a virtual card and a cuppa. Those of you who ordered the kits, they went in the post yesterday, so you should hopefully get them today or maybe even tomorrow. I sent them first class, and right, I'm going to love you and leave you. Happy stamping, and I'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye.